Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here. Welcome to another episode. Please like, subscribe, and share videos, and also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And today we're going to talk about materials. So there is a complete revolution going on in materials right now. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but today we're going to go a little more in depth in the time that we have. It's a complex subject, but the first thing to know is all of us remember the periodic table of elements from elementary or grammar school, whatever they call it, where you live. And that periodic table is being exploded into multiples right now. So for example, take carbon, C, on the periodic table. There are brand new carbon-based materials being discovered constantly right now. And instead of just one carbon, because of advances using AI in material science, there are going to be many, many different carbons, not just one. And each of these carbons will have different properties. So for example, one might provide lubrication for a moving part. Another might provide high temperature resistance for a part in a very high heat environment. This is a simple example, but every element on the periodic table will eventually be exploded out into multiples like this. And the reason why is that use of AI in materials research is only 2 to 3 years old. Again, like many things, because the neural net wasn't developed until between 2012 and 2015 and perfected around 2015 after all these years. You know, it first attempted neural net was 1958, long time ago, but there wasn't the computing power and there weren't sufficient processes to layer the integrated circuits and stuff so that you can create an artificial neural network. It all had to come together, and it all came together in the early 2010s, early to mid 2010s. Major breakthrough that now, a couple of years later, started going into materials. And to give you a parallel example, we've talked about this. The COVID-19 vaccine was developed in only 9 months. Now, there's several reasons for that. One was the urgency of a global pandemic that has killed millions of people now. And but more importantly, artificial intelligence allowed the creation of completely novel drug pathways. And the Pfizer drug and the couple of the other ones use a brand new technology called mRNA that stimulates the immune system to react as if COVID had been introduced to your body when it hasn't. And this is revolutionary. Why? Because they used to have to put a live or dead virus into you, which had risk of side effects. And these new vaccines do not have that kind of risk. So and it allowed, the point is, it allowed the creation of wholly novel vaccines in 9 months. Unheard of. We're talking a decade before this, 10 years shrunk into 9 months by AI and government pressure and money. Same thing, exact same thing is starting to happen in materials. So there's going to be materials that we haven't even heard of yet that are stronger than any material known right now. Will make cars infinitely safer than they are now. For example, it will make certain parts able to turn at higher and higher and higher speeds, because the new materials will be able to hold those parts while they're spinning at amazingly high rates of spin or heat. So this will allow the development and replacement of some of the things that we have used to build things for eons. One example of this is carbon graphite based components now used on modern aircraft that replaced aluminum. This was a breakthrough. Why? Stronger and lighter, saves a bunch of jet fuel, makes operating an aircraft much more profitable for an airline. Reducing fuel costs for an airline is a gigantic profit booster. And the only ways you can do that is to reduce weight or make the engines more efficient. So new materials, there's one good example. Another good example is ultimately there will be materials that replace steel in building skyscrapers. There will be materials that replace what's used now for a lot of common things in the home. Perhaps even they'll find an aesthetically pleasing replacement for wood, which will cut down on timber harvesting and also reduce costs quite a bit, because it's very expensive to harvest timber and transport it and cut it and then transport it again to a retail place or a place where they manufacture things out of wood. Ultimately, as technology continues to advance over time and materials, the door opens to something like the unit on Star Trek that can materialize anything. Food, which can be 3D printed now. Beverages, which can be 3D printed now. And so forth. But this is the next step. This is, you don't need the 3D printer. It's more advanced than that. And it can materialize any object out of atoms that exist in the environment or that are fed into it. That will take some time to get to that point, but some of the stuff that's happening with 3D printing is a precursor to that. And if you don't believe me, I was thinking about this recently and discussing it with a colleague, but let's think about the nature of the universe for 30 seconds. We live in a universe where the Milky Way galaxy has hundreds of billions of stars and probably trillions of planets in it. And in this universe, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies. And this universe is not only expanding, but it's expanding at an accelerating rate. If you put all that together, it means that literally anything is possible. Anything. There's nothing that is not possible. So these kind of dramatic advances in materials, in the way food is grown, processed, and distributed, the way that people travel, all kinds of things are going to be seriously changed as materials continue to advance rapidly. We're at the beginning of that, the very beginning, but over time, it will be another technology that transforms the world. So thanks a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of job opportunity in material science, or if you're not into science, at companies that are innovating and inventing these new materials and starting to build new things or replacement items for existing things out of these new materials. All this stuff has to be marketed. Someone's got to keep the books. Someone has to arrange transportation and all that. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities around these materials industries for those who are not scientifically based. Engineering, if you're into engineering, killer field. So lots and lots of job options will be created in materials science and materials companies as we move into the future. Thanks. Take care. Talk to you next time. Please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you shortly. Take care. Bye.